slow dulcimer, gavotte and bow in autumn. Bachot and his friends go out to view the moon. In summer, gasoline rainbow in the gutter. The secret courtesy that courses like ichor through the old form of the rude, full-scale joke, impossible to tell in writing. Bachot. He named himself Banana Tree. Banana, after the plant some grateful students gave him, maybe in appreciation of his guidance, threading a long night through the rules and channels of their collaborative linking poem scored in their teacher's heart, live, rigid, fluid. Like passages etched in a microscopic circuit, Eliot had in his memory so many jokes that seemed to breed like microbes in a culture. Inside his brain, one so much making another, it was impossible to tell them all in the court culture of jokes atop Banana. Imagine a court of one, the queen a young mother, unhappy, alone all day with her firstborn child, and her new baby in a squalid apartment of too few rooms, a different race from her neighbors. She tells the child she's going to kill herself. She broods, she rages, hoping to distract her. The child cuts capers. He sings, he does imitations of different people in the building, he jokes. He feels if he keeps her alive until the father gets home from work, they'll be okay till morning. It's laughter versus the bedroom and the pills. What is he in his efforts but a courtier? Impossible to tell his whole delusion. In the first months, when I had moved back east from California and had to leave a message on Bob's machine, I used to make a habit of telling the tape a joke, and partway through I would pretend that I forgot the punchline, or make believe that I was interrupted. As though he'd be so eager to hear the end, he'd have to call me back. The joke was Eliot's. More often than not, the doctors made the blunder that killed him sometime later that year. One day when I got home, I found a message on my machine from Bob. He had a story about two rabbis, one of them tall, one short. And one day while walking along the street together, they see the corpse of a Chinese man before them. And Bob said sorry, he forgot the rest. Of course he thought that his joke was a dummy. Impossible to tell, a dead-end challenge. But here it is, as Eliot told it to me. The dead man's widow came to the rabbis weeping, begging them if they could to resurrect him. Shocked, the tall rabbi said absolutely not. But the short rabbi told her to bring the body into the study house and ordered the shutters closed so the room was night dark. Then he prayed over the body, chanting a secret blessing out of Kabbalah. "Arise and breathe," he shouted. But nothing happened. The body lay still, so then the little rabbi called for hundreds of candles and danced around the body, chanting and praying in Hebrew, then Yiddish, then Aramaic. He prayed in Turkish and Egyptian and Old Galatian for nearly 3 hours, leaping about the coffin in the candlelight so that his tiny black shoes seemed not to touch the floor. With one last prayer, sobbed in the Spanish of before the Inquisition, he stopped, exhausted, and looked in the dead man's face. Panting, he raised both arms in a mystic gesture and said, "Arise and breathe." And still the body lay as before. Impossible to tell in words how Eliot's eyebrows flailed and snorted like shaggy mammoths as the Chinese widow, granting permission, the little rabbi sang the blessing for performing a circumcision and removed the dead man's foreskin, chanting blessings in Finnish and Swahili, and bathed the corpse from head to foot, and with a final prayer in Babylonian, gasping with exhaustion, he seized the dead man's head and kissed the lips, and dropped it again, and leaping back commanded, "Arise and breathe." The corpse lay still as ever. At this, as when Bachot's disciples wind along the curving spine that links the Renga across the different voices, each one adding a transformation according to the rules of stasis and repetition, all in order, and yet impossible to tell beforehand. Eliot changes for the punchline. The wee rabbi, still panting like a startled boxer, looks at the dead one, then up at all those watching, a kind of Mel Brooks gesture. "Oh boy," he says, "now that's what I call really dead. O mortal powers and princes of earth, and you immortal lords of the underground and afterlife, Jehovah, Ra, Bolmora, Hecate, Pluto, what has a brilliant living soul to do with your harps and fires and boats, your bric-a-brac and troughs of smoking blood? Provincial stinkers, our languages don't touch yours. You're like that mother whose small child entertained her to beg her life. Possibly he grew up to be the tall rabbi, the one who washed his hands of all those capers right at the outset. Or maybe he became the author of these lines, a one-man Ringa, the one for whom it seems to be impossible to tell a straight story. It was a routine, procedure. When it was finished, the physicians told Sandra and the kids it had succeeded, but Elliot wouldn't wake up for maybe an hour. They should go eat. The two of them loved to bicker in a way that on his side went back to Yiddish, on Sandra's to some Sicilian dialect. He used to scold her endlessly for smoking. When she got back from dinner with their children, the doctors had to tell them about the mistake, swirling petals, falling leaves, the movement of linking Renga coursing from moment to moment. His meaning, Bob says in his haiku book, swirling petals, all living things are contingent. Falling petals and transient, and they suffer. But the universal is the goal of jokes, especially certain ethnic jokes, which taper down through the swirling funnel of tongues and gestures towards their preposterous Ithaca. There's one a journalist told me. He heard it while a hero of the South African freedom movement was speaking to elderly Jews. The speaker's own right arm had been blown off by right-wing letter bombers. He told his listeners they had to cast their ballots for the ANC, a group of the old Jews feared, as in with the Arabs, but they started weeping. As the old one-armed fighter told them their country needed them to vote for what was right, their vote could make a country their children could return to. From London and Chicago, the moved old people applauded wildly, and the speaker's friend whispered to the journalist, "It's the Belgian army." Joke come to life. I wish that I could tell it. To Elliot in the Belgian army, the feud between the Flemings and Walloons grew vicious. So out of hand the army could barely function. Finally, one commander assembled his men in one great room to deal with things directly. They stood before him at attention. "All Flemings," he ordered, "to the left wall." Half the men clustered to the left. "Now all Walloons," he ordered, "move to the right." An equal number crowded against the right wall. Only one man remained at attention in the middle. "What are you, soldier?" Saluting the man, "Sir, I am a Belgian." "Why, that's astonishing, Corporal. What's your name?" Saluting again, "Rabinovitz," he answered. A joke that seems at first to be a story about the Jews, but as the Ranga describes religious meaning by moving in drifting petals and brittle leaves that touch and die and suffer, the changing winds that rifle the gutter swirls, so in the joke, just under the raucous music of Fleming, Jew, Walloon, a courtly allegiance moves to the dulcimer, gavotte and bow. Over the banana tree, the moon in autumn. Allegiance to a state, impossible to tell.